So we talked this morning about how liberation is possible, and then how the Pali tradition speaks about the luminous mind, but they don't have the term Buddha nature because they don't say that all beings can become Buddhas. Yeah. Then the Yogacarya school is next. This is often called Chittamadra, but Yogacarya, the term is more used in China, and it's also used in Tibet. So the Buddha nature, or Buddha Gotra, is spoken of in Sanskrit texts, such as the Prajnaparamita Sutras, Maitreya's Abhisamala Arankara and Uttara Tantra, and Asanga's Bodhisattva Bhumi. It is discussed from three perspectives: the Yogacarya, Madhyamaka, and Tantrayana. So all three of those fall within the Sanskrit tradition. According to the Yogacarya, Buddha nature is the seed or potency that has existed since beginningless time and has the potential to give rise to the three bodies of a Buddha. Okay, so the three bodies of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya, which is the Buddha's mind, and the Sambhogakaya, or enjoyment body. Dharmakaya is truth body. Sambhogakaya is enjoyment body. It's the body a Buddha manifests in to teach the Arya Bodhisattvas. And the Nirmanakaya, or emanation body. That's the body the Buddha appears in to communicate with the rest of us. Okay, so Shakyamuni Buddha, for example, was one of those emanation bodies. So the Buddha nature is the seed or potency that has existed since beginningless time, and has the potential to give rise to the three bodies of a Buddha. Okay, so it's a conditioned phenomena, which means it's produced by causes and conditions. It is the seed of unpolluted, exalted wisdom. So it's a seed, which means it's something that has the potential to become the unpolluted, exalted wisdom. So exalted wisdom here is the wisdom that realizes the ultimate nature, and unpolluted means it's not influenced by ignorance. Saying the Buddha nature is a seed fits in well with the Yogacarya system that sees everything as arising due to seeds on the foundation consciousness. So this is a particular philosophical school, and the way they describe the existence of phenomena. I mentioned it before, that the perceiving subject and the object arise from the same seed or latency on the mind stream. So they don't assert external objects that exist out there separate from the mind. Okay, and so when they talk about emptiness, one of the emptinesses that they talk about is the lack of subject and object being different substantial causes, because they're both produced from the same latency or seed. Okay, so calling the Buddha nature a seed fits in very well with their whole schema, where everything comes from seeds or latencies. When this seed of unpolluted, exalted wisdom has not yet been nourished by learning, reflecting, and meditating, it is called the naturally abiding Buddha nature. Okay, so that's the seed that they would say exists in us. We haven't attained a path, or, maybe the seed's a little bit nourished, but, it has a ways to go. Okay, so it's the naturally abiding Buddha nature, naturally abiding because it abides very naturally as part of the nature of the mind. When the same seed has been nourished by learning, reflecting, and meditating on the Dharma, it is called the evolving Buddha nature. Okay, so it's evolving, it's been nourished, it's been fertilized, it's evolving and going towards what it's eventually going to become, which is the three bodies of a Buddha. As the naturally abiding Buddha nature, it is a simple seed that has three characteristics. Okay? First, it has existed since beginningless time and has gone from one life to the next uninterruptedly. Okay, so it's just been continuous, and since there's no beginning, Buddhists don't even try to find a beginning. They say it's useless. It's like trying to find the beginning or the end of the number line, Okay, so it's just existed beginninglessly, and it's gone from one life to the next life uninterruptedly. Second characteristic, it is not newly created, but naturally abides in us. So it's not something that's added on later. It's not like you have a certain number of lives where there's no Buddha potential and then, you hit the jackpot and got it. It's just been there uninterruptedly, and it naturally abides there. It hasn't been newly added. And three, it is carried by the foundation consciousness, according to the Yogacarya scriptural proponents, and by the mental consciousness, according to the Yogacarya reasoning proponents. So these two branches of the Yogacarya, one of them asserts a foundation consciousness, or something like a storehouse consciousness, where all the, sometimes translated as mind basis of all, it's where all the seeds and latencies are placed. And so they say that this foundation consciousness continues from one life to the next uninterruptedly. So it makes sense that it would carry the seeds. They also say that this foundation consciousness is the person. Okay, and the other branch of Yogacarya says that they don't accept this foundation consciousness, but they say just the mental consciousness is what carries the seeds, and it goes from life to life. Both agree that because sensory consciousnesses are only intermittently present and therefore not a stable basis, they cannot be the Buddha nature. So our sensory consciousnesses that see, hear, smell, taste, and touch physical things, as we can see, they're not stable, When we go to sleep, they pretty much stop functioning. During the day, we always aren't tasting something. We always aren't seeing things, or smelling things. So, and also at the time of death, the five senses stop functioning. They absorb, they lose their power. And it's actually the mental consciousness that goes from one life to the next. So since the sense consciousnesses aren't stable, they wouldn't be acceptable as what carries this potency. Okay. Later, when the naturally abiding Buddha nature has been awakened and transformed by means of learning, reflecting, and meditating, it brings forth the realizations of the Arya path and is called the evolving Buddha nature. Okay, so it really becomes the evolving Buddha nature looks like when you become an Arya. So even path of accumulation, path of preparation, it still wouldn't be, it's getting there, but it still wouldn't be the real evolving Buddha nature. The Yogacarya scriptural proponents assert that these seeds or potencies are of three types according to the three vehicles. Okay, so we talk about the three vehicles, the hearer, solitary realizer, and bodhisattva vehicle. So the hearer vehicle, that leads somebody to arhatship. So does the solitary realizer or pratyeka Buddha vehicle. Except the Pratyeka Buddhas in the last life live at a time when there's no Buddha around, and they attain enlightenment in those circumstances. And then the Bodhisattva vehicle or Mahayana vehicle, where one attains full awakening. So there's those, they say that there's those three different kinds of seeds in the mind stream that will determine, which vehicle you follow when you practice. Are you going to be a hearer or a Shravaka? Are you going to be a solitary realizer? Are you going to follow the Bodhisattva vehicle? Okay. Because these seeds are inherently existent, because this particular school asserts inherent existence. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me just back up because it's the Yogacarya scriptural proponents. So they say that the seeds are of three types according to the three vehicles. So that particular school says there's three final vehicles. In other words, if you enter the hearer path, you become a hearer arhat, and that's it. You don't go on to become a Buddha. If you enter the solitary realizer path, you go on and become a solitary realizer arhat. You don't become a Buddha. Yeah, and then the Bodhisattva path, you follow that to its end, you become a Buddha. So that's said to be three final vehicles. Okay, so that particular school asserts that. The other school, the Yogacarya reasoning proponents, and the Madhyamaka school say that there's only one final vehicle, meaning that everybody at some time or another will have to enter the Bodhisattva or Mahayana path and become a fully awakened Buddha. Okay? And so the Yogacaryas, they say things are inherently existent. So these seeds are inherently existent. So they can't change into a seed for another vehicle. So according to whichever vehicle your seed is for, that's it. Okay? Thus, there are three final vehicles. You follow one and you attain its path of no more learning, and that's it. So not every sentient being will become a Buddha. Some will become Shravaka or Patyeka Buddha arhats and abide forever in personal liberation. Yogacarya reasoning proponents and Madhyamikas, I can say Madhyamaka, but Madhyamika. Alex, who knows Sanskrit better, it's Madhyamaka. Yeah. So, I don't know. Those guys. Okay. So they assert one final vehicle, but and say that all beings will eventually become fully awakened Buddhas, including those who enter the Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha vehicles, the hearer and solitary realizer vehicles, and attain arhatship first. But those who become arhats, when they finally enter the bodhisattva vehicle, they have to start at the beginning of the five paths, because they don't have the merit to, just switch over on an equal level in terms of the afflictions they've eliminated. They need to go back to the path of accumulation, the first bodhisattva path, and accumulate merit from that stage. So that's why, our teachers always emphasize to us it's better to enter the bodhisattva vehicle directly. Yeah, and because you wind up attaining full awakening quicker that way than if you go through the hearer solitary realizer vehicle, become an arhat, stay in your peaceful nirvana for a few eons, and then you wake up, and then you have to start at the beginning of the bodhisattva vehicle.
So, can an arhat choose to take a rebirth, or do they have to go to personal liberation next?
Well, an arhat is somebody who has attained personal liberation, and they don't want any rebirths. And they don't, they are interested in their own liberation. So unlike people who enter the bodhisattva vehicle, their motivation is not to lead all sentient beings out of samsara. Their motivation is to attain their own liberation. If they can help people on the way, they certainly do that. Yeah, but they're not trying to remove all the obscurations on their mind to become a fully awakened Buddha and thus become most capable of benefiting sentient beings.
But on a strictly theoretical level, like, could they choose to take a rebirth, or do they have to go to personal nirvana next?
There's no theoretical level. I mean, if you want to go to Delhi, yeah, when you get to Delhi, you're in Delhi and you stay there. Yeah, because that's been your whole motivation the whole time. So when you get there, you stay there. You don't get to Delhi and go, oh, gee, maybe I should go back to Santa Monica.
But maybe you say, oh, gee, maybe I want to go to Dharamsala. It's a closer.
No, they just go into their meditative equipoise and stay there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does the Yogacarya by scripture explain how, like, what seed you get given, or in terms
they don't. I mean, I haven't heard an explanation. Nobody gives you the seeds because remember, they're naturally there. They aren't newly created.
But you somehow have an inherently existent seed of one.
Yeah, you have one or the other, and how you have that one or the other, I haven't read the explanation of how they explain that. Yeah. Maybe you could look it up in one of Jeffrey's books on Chittamadra. Maybe it's there, I don't know. I don't remember him saying anything about that. Okay, so now the Madhyamaka school and their views on Buddha nature. So the Ratnagotra Vibhanka, this is also known as the Uttara Tantra, yeah, or Gyu Lama in Tibetan. It defines Buddha nature as phenomena having the possibility to transform into any of the three Buddha bodies. Okay. From the Madhyamaka perspective, Buddha nature principally refers to the emptiness of the mind that is yet to abandon defilements. Okay, so our minds, remember, their ultimate nature, that's all the naturally abiding Buddha nature, or it's also called natural nirvana, yeah, is the emptiness of inherent existence of the mind of, ordinary beings who have yet to abandon defilements. The empty nature of the mind is beyond time, beyond samsara, and beyond constructive and destructive karma. Neither virtuous nor non-virtuous, it can act as the basis for both samsara and nirvana. Because, so the empty nature of the mind is there whether we're in samsara or in nirvana. It's, the basis of both. Because Buddha nature is simply the mind's absence of inherent existence, and a Buddha's mind also lacks inherent existence. That isn't, there's a comma there. So because of that, Nagarjuna notes that the nature of a Tathagata is the nature of sentient beings. So when we say, that the nature of a sentient being, the nature of the Tathagata are the same, we're saying that the emptiness of inherent existence is the same, because the emptiness is emptiness, okay? But from the viewpoint of the mind that is empty, there's a big difference because, our mind has afflictions, Buddha's mind doesn't, okay? So in terms of the emptiness itself, emptiness is the same, yeah? But the mind, that is the basis of that emptiness differs. Okay. However, that does not mean sentient beings are already Buddhas. For while sentient beings' minds have defilements, Buddha's minds do not. The fact that the nature of the mind is empty does not mean we have already realized emptiness. Okay, this is important. Only when we realize the empty nature of the mind directly and use that realization to cleanse our mind of defilements will it serve as the basis for Arya's qualities. Okay, so we have to realize emptiness and begin cleansing our minds, and then at that point, the emptiness can be the basis of Arya's qualities. Yeah. So we can't say that we're already Buddhas. Yeah. If we did that, then we would be pretty dumb Buddhas.
Just the context as to when they decide to refer to the emptiness of the mind versus the emptiness of the person. Because here we're like talking about the mind.
Yeah.
And that's why. I mean, they could
That's
just have said only when we realize the empty nature of the person directly and use that realization to cleanse our mind stream.
Yeah, but when you realize the empty nature of the person, you also realize the empty nature of the mind. So remember, when you have direct perception of the emptiness of one, it's also of the other. But here, I asked His Holiness, why do we emphasize so much the emptiness of the mind? Because usually we talk about the emptiness of the person because that's easier to realize than the emptiness of the mind. And because it's the self-grasping of persons that is really emphasized as the first link of dependent origination, although that first link does include the grasping at the self of phenomena, but the emphasis is on the self-grasping of persons, particularly the view of the personal identity. Yeah, so I was asking about that, and he said we emphasize the emptiness of the mind because at that time the mind is realizing its own ultimate nature. Yeah, so there's something quite powerful when the mind can directly see its own ultimate nature. Yeah.
Is there a connection between emptiness of the mind and emptiness of the self?
They're both.
That's not been used here at all, so I'm wondering
Right.
where that fits in.
Yeah, that's what she's saying too. They're both emptiness, but the base that is empty, one is the emptiness of the self, the person. The other is the emptiness of the mind, of a person. Yeah, from the viewpoint of the experience of emptiness, you can't differentiate them. When you're in meditative equipoise on them, there's no difference between them. But when we talk about them, then we can talk about them being different. Okay. The fact that the nature of the mind is empty does not mean we've already realized emptiness. I already read that, didn't I? An unconditioned phenomena that does not depend on causes, the mind's emptiness of inherent existence, is also called natural nirvana. Okay? So the emptiness of the mind is unconditioned. It's a permanent phenomena, not influenced by causes and conditions. Okay? The emptiness of an ordinary being's mind exists as long as that ordinary being does. When that ordinary being becomes an Arya, the emptiness of that ordinary being's mind no longer exists, but the emptiness of an Arya's mind does. These two emptinesses are both the absence of inherent existence, and when perceived by a mind that realizes them directly, there is no difference between them. Okay? But conventionally speaking, there's a difference. Okay? As explained above, because the ultimate nature of the mind is empty of inherent existence, the mental defilements obscuring our vision of ultimate reality can be separated from it and removed. These defilements are not embedded in the ultimate nature of the mind. Insight into the mind's emptiness, or natural nirvana, is the crucial element necessary to overcome all defilements. Cultivating this wisdom initiates the process of undoing the causal chain of the 12 links. 12 links are the process by which we take rebirth in samsara again and again. It's explained in an earlier chapter. By realizing natural nirvana, we will attain the nirvana that is the pacification of mental defilements. So by realizing natural nirvana, which is the empty nature of the mind, okay, then we will purify the mind, and we will realize the nirvana, which is another kind of emptiness, but it's the nirvana that is the pacification of mental defilements. So it becomes the nirvana of an arhat, the emptiness of inherent existence of the mind of an arhat or of a Buddha. Okay, this nirvana is the ultimate true cessation, the third truth of the Aryas.
I didn't quite understand the answer that you were saying from His Holiness. Is it because whatever you're meditating on, the emptiness, you implicitly understand the empty nature of the mind? Or do you actually take the mind as the object and look?
Yeah, the mind is your object in which you're investigating to see how it exists.
Yeah, I didn't understand. If we're talking about the root of cyclic existence being grasping at self, a person,
right,
and then now you're taking the mind, which is phenomena, as the basis. I didn't understand what his reply was about that.
Well, the emphasis is because the mind is the ultimate basis of designation of the person, and the mind is what realizes. The mind is what is clear and cognizant. So when the mind can see its own ultimate nature, that's exceptionally powerful, more powerful than if we meditate on the emptiness of the pot or even the emptiness of the self. Okay, because the mind is the basis of designation of the person.
And I think those two can be interchanged as the root of cyclic existence, grasping it self of phenomena and grasping itself of person.
It's kind of funny how they do it. When they talk about the first link, ignorance, they always point out the view of a personal identity. It's got to be the grasping at your own I and mine as the root. But you can't say that there's the grasping at phenomena isn't part of that. Yeah, because, in order to grasp at an I or mine, you have to be grasping at the aggregates first. Okay, so, but because the grasping at the I and mine is so prominent when we generate afflictions, then I think that, and also because in the lower schools, they don't assert a selflessness of persons, so of phenomena. So when they talk about, how the 12 links commonly are seen by all the traditions, then of course they're going to say the view of the personal identity. Yeah, because I remember when I was going through this, they always say view of personal identity, and I'm going, but wait a minute, what about the grasping of the self-persons? Don't you have to have that? How come they don't say that's the first link, ignorance? How come they don't do that? Yeah, because it would make sense from a Madhyamaka view. But when you're trying to...
Self of phenomena, you're saying?
Yeah, self of phenomena. Okay, but even within the self of persons, it has to be you're grasping at your own self. That's the root of samsara. It's not my grasping at you as inherently existent. Okay, so there you can really see why it's the view of the personal identity that's emphasized more than anything else, more than holding the pot as truly existent or, like that. Okay.
It's interesting we don't make a distinction between grasping at the mind in my continuum, as opposed to grasping at the mind or the aggregates in another person's continuum. That distinction isn't made.
Yeah. I think because by the time you're doing that, you're focused on the mind realizing its own nature. You're not going to be thinking about other people's minds. Yeah, you're going to be thinking about your own mind. What's the ultimate nature of my own mind? Yeah, because that's going to have a stronger effect than thinking about what's the ultimate nature of the tree or your mind. And they're both other than my mind, so, Insight into the mind's emptiness or natural nirvana. Did I read that too? That whole paragraph. Yes, I did. Okay. As explained in chapter 2, the nature of a Buddhist mind has a twofold purity. Its natural stainless purity free from inherent existence, and its purity from having eradicated all adventitious defilements. These two comprise a Buddha's nature dharmakaya. Okay? So the natural stainless purity is the empty nature of the mind. The purity of having eradicated all adventitious defilements is the true cessation. Okay? But you can't really differentiate between these at that point. Indirect perception. These two comprise a Buddha's nature dharmakaya. While sentient beings' minds are empty of inherent existence and their defilements are adventitious, we cannot say their Buddha nature is the nature dharmakaya of a Buddha with this twofold purity. Yeah? Why? Because there's no purity from having eradicated the adventitious defilements, and also because the mind that is empty is not a Buddha's mind, it's an ordinary being's mind. That is because sentient beings' minds are still obscured by defilements. So if the mind of the sentient being is obscured by defilements, then even though the emptiness itself is naturally pure, because it's the emptiness of a mind that has defilements, there's still some purification that needs to happen. Okay, so it's this kind of puzzle. Like Yogacaryas, Madhyamakas also speak of naturally abiding Buddha nature and evolving Buddha nature, although they describe them differently. These two types of Buddha nature exist in all sentient beings, whether or not they are on the path, and whether or not they are a Buddhist, okay? The naturally abiding Buddha nature, this is according to the Madhyamakas, is the emptiness of a mind that is not freed from defilement and is able to transform into a Buddha's nature dharmakaya. Okay, so here you see the basis of the emptiness is quite specific. It's a mind that is not yet freed from defilements, and is able to transform into a Buddha's nature dharmakaya. And it's specifically, I think, our mind. Yeah. The evolving Buddha nature is the seed for the unpolluted mind. It consists of conditioned phenomena that will transform into a Buddha's wisdom dharmakaya. Without this seed in our minds, there would be no way for the awakening activities of the Buddha to enter into us, because there would be nothing in our minds that could germinate by coming into contact with the Buddha's teachings. The evolving Buddha nature enables our minds to be affected and transformed by the teachings. The fact that the Buddha taught the Dharma indicates sentient beings have the potential to become Buddhas. If we didn't, his turning the Dharma wheel would have been useless. Okay, so this naturally abiding Buddha nature is permanent. It's the empty nature of the mind. Yeah, it is one nature with the evolving Buddha nature, because remember, the mind and its emptiness are one nature. Yeah, even though they're mutually exclusive. Yeah, so the evolving Buddha nature is the seed for the unpolluted mind. So it refers to all the conditioned phenomena that can transform into a Buddha's wisdom dharmakaya. So, for example, our present love, our present compassion, our present faith or confidence, our present integrity, consideration for others, wisdom, all the different parts of us that can be cultivated and grown limitlessly and become part of the Buddha's mind, the Buddha's wisdom dharmakaya. So all those things fall into the category of the evolving Buddha nature. Okay. Now, why is it important to have this evolving Buddha nature that is something that's impermanent and depends on causes and conditions? Because, otherwise there would be nothing in us that could change and become a Buddha. Okay? And so what also facilitates our change is what they call the awakened activities of a Buddha. Okay? When they say the awakened activities of the Buddha enter into us, it doesn't mean that you're pouring like water into a bowl or something. It just means us being affected by the Buddha's awakening activities. Okay? So if our mind were permanent, it could not be affected by anything, and the Buddha's awakening activities couldn't affect it. And so listening to the teachings would have no effect on our mind at all. Okay? But we can see that our mind is affected by listening to teachings, which is the principal way the Buddha leads us to awakening. And so there is this evolving Buddha nature that is affected and that can transform into the wisdom dharmakaya of a Buddha. And that wisdom dharmakaya itself is an impermanent phenomena.
Can I just check? This word that's being used here, seed, is that really meaning like a cause? Not a karmic seed per se?
No, it's not a karmic
seed. It's
seed.
like a cause.
No, it's like a cause. Yeah. There's many different kinds of seeds and latencies. Yeah, they all aren't karma.
Can this seed grow into something else?
Can it grow into something else?
Yeah. Is it?
When you plant daisies, can they grow into cucumbers?
No, but they're genetically modified. They can grow into other things. If the sun has a sun flare and a random bit of radiation hits a random seed, it could turn into a new something other than a daisy.
Yeah, this seed can't.
This is because it says because it's based on the conditioned phenomena that will transform it into a Buddha's wisdom dharmakaya.
Yeah. It's the potential, like this, our present love, compassion, and things like that, those qualities that exist in us right now that are like this big. Yeah. And when they're nourished by hearing the teachings and the inspiration from the Buddhas of awakening activities, then these qualities can grow until they become the qualities of a fully awakened Buddha.
What if somebody realizes emptiness of inherent existence? There's the potential for change of the mind because it's empty of inherent existence. But they don't shed their obscurations and they don't focus on love. They focus on hate. What if they were to attend
if you've realized the emptiness of inherent existence directly, then automatically your afflictions are going to be shed. To some degree, different degrees of afflictions are very automatically going to go bye-bye. because the afflictions are based on misunderstanding, and that realization of emptiness sees things as they actually are. Okay.
I'm just like imagining it from like the perspective of a teacher, unlike you preaching love, a teacher preaching hate to minds that have the potential to change.
Yeah, if there's a teacher preaching hate, he's not going to be teaching emptiness.
Or realizing it.
Or realizing it, or be interested in it. Okay? Because, the whole reason somebody is interested in emptiness and wants to realize it is because they realize that they're suffering due to samsaric dukkha, and that ignorance, anger, attachment, and so on are the causes of their misery, and they want to eliminate those causes. Somebody who enjoys hate and preaches hate doesn't want to give up those causes. They want to increase that. So they have no interest in emptiness.
Doesn't this kind of boil down to, I don't know how to say this exactly, the basis of these wholesome seeds? The basis of them is firm, where the basis of like hate would be skewed and couldn't really hold over time.
Right. Yeah. What the realization of emptiness does, it automatically adversely affects hatred. It cannot and does not adversely affect love and compassion and the good, the virtuous aspects. Yeah. Okay, so the fact that the Buddha taught the Dharma indicates sentient beings have the potential to become Buddhists. So as soon as you start thinking, I can't do it, then it's like you're contradicting the Buddha, and saying, Buddha, you taught the Dharma for no reason at all because I can't become awakened. Okay? Or Buddha, you're lying that everybody has the Buddha potential because I don't. Okay? So be careful what you say to yourself when you get down on yourself and criticize yourself. Yeah? Because if you really look at it, it's a bunch of lies. Got it? Got it? The evolving Buddha nature includes neutral mental consciousnesses as well as love, compassion, wisdom, bodhicitta, faith, and other virtuous mental states that can be gradually developed as we progressively attain the 10 bodhisattva grounds. At the time we become Buddhas, our naturally abiding Buddha nature will become the nature Dharmakaya, and our evolving Buddha nature will become the wisdom Dharmakaya. Okay? Afflictions cannot be transformed into any of the Buddha bodies and do not have the Buddha nature. Okay? Although non-sentient phenomena such as rocks and grass are empty of inherent existence, they do not have the Buddha nature because they lack mind and cannot generate virtuous mental states. No matter what realm a sentient being is born into, the naturally abiding Buddha nature is also there. So it's there in crickets, in stink bugs, in Putin, in Donnie, in Roy, everybody has the Buddha nature. And the Buddha nature does not decrease or increase. Okay. So gold may be buried in the ground for centuries, but uncovering it is always possible. It may be covered with dirt, but it doesn't become dirt. Although the dirt obscures it, the dirt can be cleansed so that the natural radiance of the gold shines. Because the Buddha nature exists, we can cleanse it and cultivate all good qualities limitlessly. Okay. Then the Tantrayana, this view of Buddha nature. According to the unique description of highest Yoga Tantra, so there's 4 classes of Tantra, at least in some of the versions talking about Tantra. There's 4 classes: action, performance, yoga, and highest yoga. So this is talking about the unique view of the highest Yoga Tantra. So according to that, Buddha nature is the subtlest mind wind, whose nature is empty of inherent existence. Okay. So let me stop here and explain what the subtlest mind wind is. Okay, so as right now we're functioning on a very gross level. I mean, our gross senses that are active in terms of different sense objects and so on. But like we talked about earlier, the sense consciousnesses are not stable. They're not always there. They're active. They're not active. They, like that. Okay? And we can also see that our mental consciousness is somehow much more potent than our sense consciousnesses. Because our sense consciousnesses can't think, they can't reflect, they can't analyze anything. It's the mental consciousness that really, it's the type of mental consciousness that human beings have that make us especially intelligent. Okay, not our sense consciousnesses. Because animals also see and hear and smell and taste and touch, and they often do it much better than we do. But our mental consciousness is much better than that of the animals. So our consciousness has many different levels. It has a very gross level, which is when our senses are functioning. It has a subtle level that involves for example, when we're in the process of dying, after our gross senses cease to function, we don't say that that's actually death yet. Okay, so the heart can stop, the brain waves can stop, the breath can stop, but there can still be a subtle consciousness remaining in the body. Then even that subtle consciousness, at some point, it absorbs and stops functioning. And what remains is called the fundamental innate mind of clear light. Okay, so that's the subtlest level of consciousness. Together with this subtlest level of consciousness is a subtlest wind energy, or in Sanskrit the term is prana. Okay, so it literally means wind, but it's like a wind energy. It's not that things are blowing around in the wind. It's not like that. Okay, so this extremely subtle wind energy and extremely subtle mind, they're always together. They can't be separated. And they say that, so let's just leave it at that. They're always together. When we die, our gross winds in our body and gross elements in our body, they lose their potential, and that all dissolves. As that dissolves, our consciousnesses, which depend on the gross elements and gross wind energies, they also absorb and lose their power. Okay? When we go to sleep, also, a similar process happens, except things don't go all the way down to the fundamental innate mind of clear light. But, the mind is definitely more subtle when we sleep. Okay? So this extremely subtle mind wind is actually what goes from one when is actually what leaves this life and continues to the next life. It's not a soul. It's not inherently existent. It's not the person. Okay? It's an extremely subtle mind wind, and it's conditioned. It's constantly changing. Yeah. So it's not an independent, permanent soul by any means at all. Okay? So this is what they're talking about. And they're going to say that this subtlest mind wind is, from the tantric viewpoint, the actual Buddha nature. Okay? Because the Tantra talks about the winds and the different levels of mind and things like that. And the sutra part of the path doesn't discuss those.
When you say that it's constantly changing, what do you mean? Like
It means that it's not permanent. It arises and ceases moment by moment. Okay? That's all change means, is it arises and ceases. It doesn't mean it's jumping around and going different places and like that. Okay, so Buddha nature is the subtlest mind wind whose nature is empty of inherent existence. The subtlest mind is an extremely refined state of mind, also called the innate clear light mind. The subtle wind energy is its mount. The two are inseparable. All sentient beings have this subtlest mind wind, and its continuity goes on until awakening. It is not a soul or independent essence. It changes moment by moment and is selfless and empty of independent existence. When we die, the coarser levels of mind dissolve into the innate clear light mind. And when we are reborn, coarser consciousnesses again emerge from the basis of that innate clear light mind. Okay? When these coarser levels of consciousness are present, our senses are functioning, for example, constructive and destructive thoughts arise and create karma. The result of afflicted thoughts is samsara. The result of virtuous mental states, such as renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom, is the attainment of nirvana. So in this way, the innate clear light mind is the basis for both samsara and nirvana. Yeah. So it depends what we do with this innate clear light mind. Okay. Sentient being's subtlest mind serves as the substantial cause for a Buddha's wisdom dharmakaya, and the subtlest wind energy is the substantial cause for a Buddha's form body. Okay, let me keep going here. In ordinary beings, the subtlest mind wind manifests only at the time of the clear light of death, when it goes unnoticed in the, for ordinary beings. Yeah. While it is neutral in the case of ordinary beings, special yogic practices can transform it into virtue, thus bringing it into the path to full awakening. Doing this is the heart of highest yoga tantra. Through special tantric practices, this subtlest clear light mind is activated and made blissful, and then used to realize emptiness. Because this mind wind is so subtle, when it realizes emptiness directly, it becomes a very strong counterforce to eradicate both afflictive and cognitive obscurations. In this way, Buddhahood may be attained quickly. Okay, so it's this fundamental innate mind of clear light that is one nature with the subtlest wind, that is the Buddha nature from the viewpoint of Tantra.
So in this presentation, what is causing it to disintegrate moment by moment? Like, why does it fall away?
Just because it's a cause phenomena. Just like, anything that is a cause phenomena. The table is a cause phenomena. It's changing moment by moment. We don't notice it changing, but because it's conditioned, it's not permanent, fixed. Then that's just its nature that it's changing.
It's difficult for me to see it as a cause phenomena if it's been with us since beginningless time.
It's difficult. Say that again.
It's difficult for me to grasp it as a cause phenomena if it's been with us since beginningless time.
Why? Because one cause produces the next cause, produces the next, produces the next, and there's infinite causes
it's
going
been
back.
Causing itself the whole time?
Huh?
Has it been causing itself the whole time? Kind of like how the mind is
each
causing
moment of mind causes the next moment of mind.
Right.
So each moment of mind is different. They aren't the same.
I'm more concerned about the wind energy part.
Okay. Yeah. So it too is changing moment by moment. Yeah. But again, changing moment by moment doesn't mean that we can see some physical change. It just means that something is arising and ceasing in every split second. There's no point where you can say it's there permanently fixed. Yeah. Okay. So that's what impermanent means. Okay. So it's hard because the definition of permanent and impermanent in Buddhism is different than our common usages in English, where we usually think permanent means everlasting, and impermanent means we can see the change. Okay? But the definition is different for Buddhism. So there's lots of things that are changing moment by moment where we can't see the change. I mean, just our whole body is changing moment by moment. All the electrons and all these things, they're whizzing around. Everything is arising and ceasing. It's not remaining the same moment by moment. We can't see it, but it exists.
Then that would be true as well for the mind. The cosmic mind that we were talking about earlier.
Well, I don't remember us talking about a cosmic mind.
In my mind, it was.
I don't remember this talking about a cosmic mind. If you're thinking about a cosmic mind, you better tell me what you're thinking about.
All right. The mind we were talking about this morning, the same change is going on moment by moment as we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. Things don't abide in a fixed manner at all. Changing things do not abide in a fixed manner.
So for somebody who's a highest class tantric practitioner in meditative equipoise, where is the innate clear light mind, the exalted wisdom mind that's realizing emptiness? What's the relationship to the exalted wisdom mind that's...
Okay. In highest class Tantra, what you're trying to do is access this fundamental innate mind of clear light while you're still alive. And if you can't do it, then when you die. And then use that to realize emptiness.
So you're in meditative equipoise and that mind is the one that's...
Yeah, you have to meditate using the winds in your body to dissolve the gross winds, and by dissolving the gross winds, you dissolve the gross consciousnesses, and at the end, that makes manifest this innate clear light mind. And then you use that to realize emptiness. And that's a much, much subtler mind than in Sutrayana.
The exalted wisdom mind. Right?
Yeah. Okay, the exalted wisdom mind in Sutrayana is not this subtlest mind. Okay?
Make myself clear. if I go trying to meditate on these gross winds, I'm gonna end up with Lung, right?
Yeah. So, this just take this as information, file it away, know that it's useful. Don't try and meditate on these gross winds and subtlest winds and make manifest your subtlest clear light mind when you haven't received proper instruction and when you haven't accumulated a lot of merit and when you haven't done all these other kinds of things to prepare yourself.
So what are the real preparatory practices?
Everything else I've been teaching you.
I'm not saying for me, I'm saying it more for like everybody who watches as a podcaster or whatever.
Yeah, everything, the entire Lam Rim, plus, everything is preparatory for this.
And you should really have like the attainment of serenity already.
What?
And you should have attained serenity already.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, to access that mind, yes, you must have attained serenity. Yeah. Just relax. I should preface it. I'm not expecting all of the new people to understand this. There's a lot of technical vocabulary in here, and I'm not stopping and explaining each meaning of each word because we'd never get through. Okay? So this is just a short synopsis. Take it as that. Know that there's something interesting going on here. Practice at the level that you're at. Yeah, and keep going. Yeah.
So, okay. I guess this is my question. You talk a lot about permanence and change and all that, and I understand that, but I could snap a photo and the film would change, but the image does not change. I mean, it was captured at that moment, so it's measurable. It's observable. It can be like texture, color.
That image also is changing moment by moment. That's what I mean. It's the change doesn't have to be something we see with our eyes. Okay? Because just that image is on paper, isn't it? And that paper's changing moment by moment. So automatically the image on it is changing moment by moment. It looks similar to the previous moment of the image, but it's changing. Just as this cloth looks the same to you as it did this morning, but it's changed. It's not exactly the same cloth as there was here this morning, or even at the beginning of the session, or even 1 nanosecond ago. It's changed from that.
In the picture, the content would be the same, right? Like a still shot. I mean, the content.
It looks similar, but one moment of something is not the same as the next moment of it.
The film is constantly degrading, right?
No, I understand like the film. I understand the superficial aspects of the film, but the content of the image.
Yeah, but the image doesn't exist separate from the film or the paper. The image is just shades of colors. And all of that is changing. It's ink, isn't it?
But Andrew's saying is that the moment that was snapped as the photograph, that moment, he's asking if that has been captured. That's what I'm
Yes.
You have something that resembles that moment, but it only resembles that moment. It is not that moment.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay? Yeah. I mean, a photograph definitely isn't the object that you photographed, is it? Yeah, you can't eat the photo of a piece of cake. Maybe you could. I don't know. Actually, who liked to lick photos is Achala. They love to lick the photos. There was something on it. My previous cats. Yes.
I'm more interested in the Tatriana section we're on, but I'm going to ask in relation to this photograph, if you were to digitize it and it now exists as a series of math that generates the image, does the math exist permanently?
No, the math came into existence. Yeah. And I mean, where is the math? Are you thinking of math as some... if you're thinking of the digitized things, the digitization is on some material, isn't it? And that material is changing moment by moment.
Yes, but you can make for intents and purposes, a perfect copy of the math. Not a copy of the image, but a copy of the math. That is the same math that generates not the same picture.
Well, the fact that you can make a copy of it, then there's impermanence. Okay.
Why? Because if it was permanent, you wouldn't need to make a copy?
Yeah, if something were permanent, there's no way that anything could change. It couldn't influence anything and change into anything or make anything happen. Yeah, it's hard to understand. Yeah, because it's a different way of thinking. Okay.
I don't know why, but I find it difficult, where we got hung up here earlier today, and it's still, so I thought maybe we could try it again.
Okay.
The thing about in the Madhyamaka system with not the natural Buddha nature, but the evolving Buddha nature, it just kind of comes across as something like, I don't know, maybe it's the word seed. Cause is easier.
Yeah, use
sometimes
cause,
it's just really hard for my mind to make the case that we have, like I have this belief. Let's go this way.
Okay.
When I gave up the Catholic faith, partly I've always had this belief that we have like this basic goodness.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the explanation of it.
Yeah.
But logically, something in it always feels kind of weak to me. And the best thing that I can get to is when His Holiness talks about the basis of what these things rest on, like love, compassion, wisdom, they have a solid basis of reality, really, because the afflictions are on a flimsy basis that aren't real.
Right.
But I guess it's the mind that when I hear these words, is trying to like look inside now and find that seed in there. Like I really do want to make it permanent. Like there's something there, not a soul, but something that's like we've been carrying along like a little stone with us.
Yeah, that's really us that you could just kind of dig out.
I guess I just can't, I'm not satisfied with letting it be so just merely designated or something.
Yeah, that's it. We want to see, show me my Buddha nature.
Yeah.
Here. If somebody plucked out, some little radiant gem inside of you that was this big and radiating light.
Homunculus.
Yeah, right. And said, this is your Buddha nature. You would look at it and say, how can that thing become a Buddha?
Right, well, that's what I was saying when you were doing the Yogacara. I was like, what are these seeds they're talking about here? And then I thought it was, when you started in the Madhyamaka, for the natural Buddha nature, it was like clear as crystal. But when you got to the other one, I was like, oh, there's that seed again.
Yeah, so it means a cause or a potential that can become something, So, so we have, you could say, this basic inner goodness.
That's how it would be defined.
Yeah, which is, it's a potential that can become great. And the love, compassion, wisdom, and so on that we have right now, those qualities can be increased. So they're part of that seed.
Yeah. When I just think about it, I don't want to say logically, I want to say practically, just from knowing human beings. When you think of afflictions being progressing, evolving, getting greater and greater and greater, eventually the being implodes. You know what I mean? Most people don't last. It doesn't last.
You mean that they consume their own life?
Yeah, in one way, shape, or form. Either
or they
go
make
crazy
themselves so sick that they die.
Sick, or it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
to be.
It's not sustainable, and it's based on hallucination.
Yeah,
it's like building a house on top of water. Yeah, because the basis. There's no inherent existence. So if you're basing all of this on inherent existence, you're basing it on nothing. Okay? So when you destroy that mind that grasps inherent existence, then all the afflictions that come about due to that grasping, they also can't be sustained. Yeah, but the love, compassion, the good qualities can be sustained because they aren't based on that ignorance. Okay? So that's why all sentient beings can become Buddhas, and why the Buddha nature can never be destroyed.
I'm having trouble understanding that if the love and the compassion is ultimately also empty of inherent existence, then why it's a foregone conclusion that one would continue to emphasize them once reaching a certain point. Like why? Yes, bodhicitta motivation, but the bodhicitta motivation is empty of inherent existence.
Yeah.
Why
Does that
would
mean
one
it's...
have to continue to grasp it?
You're not grasping at it. Okay. Does inherent existence exist?
No.
No. So, your bodhicitta doesn't grow on the basis of believing in inherent existence. So when you eliminate that grasping, it doesn't harm the bodhicitta. And the bodhicitta was never inherently existent to start with. So realizing its emptiness doesn't destroy the bodhicitta.
But what is this force binding a Buddha to goodness?
They're bodhicitta. That they've practiced, they've developed these qualities of the mind that in us are very small and underdeveloped. But the Buddhas, by practicing so long and so much and so intently and diligently for so long, they've cultivated the potential of these qualities limitlessly. And there's nothing that can make them lose those qualities because they've eliminated all the afflictions and all the defilements. So there's nothing contradicting those qualities or impeding those qualities.
If they start with a different motivation.
If you don't have the bodhicitta, you're not going to become a Buddha. Okay, so there's no Buddhas who lack the bodhicitta.
Subtle mind wind, when one dies, goes into a bardo body. Is this bardo being something that already exists, and the subtle mind wind goes into that? And
now the subtle mind wind, when it leaves this body and goes into the body, then it appears in the form of the bardo being. The bardo being doesn't exist before we die.
Yeah, but then when we are body, bardo being, and we have the fortune to have a human rebirth, so we look for human bodies, so that exists already. So yeah, okay.
No, the future rebirth doesn't exist. Things don't exist until until their causes cease.
Yes.
The causes have to cease for the result to come.
What happens if someone practices Tantra without bodhicitta and that wisdom that realizes emptiness?
Then, there's stories about people who do that. The famous one, some people go kind of nutty. They go crazy. And some people, they tell the story of somebody, some meditator who was, maybe they had serenity and were meditating on the image, of visualizing themselves as Yamantaka, but without any understanding of emptiness, without the bodhicitta. And so in the next life, they appeared as some samsaric being that looked like Yamantaka. Yeah, it doesn't get you out of samsara. You just get without the wisdom realizing emptiness, you can't get out of samsara. Yeah. So this is what they say about because a lot of the things that are done with the subtle body are also done by Hindus. Yeah, but they don't attain the same results as the Buddhists do because they don't have the determination to be free, the bodhicitta, the wisdom realizing emptiness, the same collection of merit, and so on. Yeah, so that's why doing all these, the preliminaries are really not so preliminary. They're essential. Yeah, and without them, you're not going to get the proper realizations.
In Sacramento, I once went to a teaching, somebody who was a lay teacher.
Somebody who what?
Who was a lay
teacher.
Well, he was more of a trainee, and he had misunderstood the practice of Tantra to such a degree that he was basically telling the people who've come to listen that it was great to practice Tantra because then they would gain all kinds of powers and realizations, and things that were super normal. Mm-hmm. And I was aghast at hearing that because there was no mention of bodhicitta. There was no mention of wisdom realizing emptiness, and it made it sound as if the sole purpose of practicing the path was to gain supernormal powers, and making that the most enticing thing about the practice, which I thought it was just like completely distorting.
Yeah,
the nature of the practice.
It's quite distorted. Yep. And some people are fascinated by those supernormal powers. They can do those meditations and gain them, but then they're just reborn in cyclic existence again next rebirth. Yeah? So supernormal powers don't stop that. Only the wisdom realizing emptiness does. Yeah, so that's why it's important to really check out the qualities of a teacher before you follow that teacher.